Welcome everyone to Birding by Ear, bird sounds of Lake Tahoe. I am Rich Chambers, and the presentation is hosted by the Tahoe Institute for Natural Science. Yep, that's me there with them, the educational bald eagle at Lake Tahoe Wild Care. I was part of a group that was helping get her socialized when she was first at the center. So first, let's make sure you can use the chat window. Move your cursor to the bottom of the window and click on chat. This opens a little window. Use it to send me a text message during the class. There'll be times for you to guess which bird is next, etc. And if you have any questions, put those in there. It'd be helpful if you put them in all caps so they'll stand out, because the chat window gets pretty busy during the presentation. Go ahead and try it out. Okay, I can see some messages now. So let's do a review from last week. So we had some questions, and one was, does the black-billed magpie sound like the yellow-billed magpie? So they do, and the hint for these both is they say their name as part of the, well, I don't know if you call it a song, but the sounds they make. So this is the black-billed magpie. Well, it will be in a second. All right, I want to do it again. Now listen to it saying mag at the beginning here. Okay, that was the black-billed. The yellow-billed. Kind of similar. So another question, do fledglings sound the same as the adults? They make begging sounds, which adults don't typically make those sounds. So as an example, I have a lot of black-headed grosbeak that nest in our neighborhood, and the fledglings make a repeated soft ew sound that I've not known the adults to make. So we had some suggestions by attendees to have a little more time when I'm asking you to guess. And they also suggested the canyon wren sounds like it's sliding down the canyon. How about that? Sliding down the canyon for the canyon wren. And the orange-crowned warbler sounds like he's running out of steam. What do you think? Kind of runs a little bit downhill there. Okay. So what I'm going to do is when we're guessing the next bird or whatever, I'm going to wait until I get 10 guesses in the chat window, and then we'll move on. So another question was, the yellow-rumped warbler was considered two separate species until 1973, and they're called the audubons on the left here and the myrtle on the right. So the left bird, audubons, is on the west coast, the west part of the country, and the myrtle is more in the east part of the country. So let's listen to them. They do sound a little bit similar, but definitely different. Okay, kind of Seesaw with a fading away slur at the end. Well, actually, the whole song is slurry. Listen to it. Seesaw is slurred, and so is the part at the end. Okay, that was the Audubon's or Western yellow-rumped warbler. Here's the myrtle. Now, they're kind of similar. The myrtle has a bit of a seesaw, but it's not very slurry. And then it's the end notes seem to trail away down, where to me the Audubon's does the opposite and goes up. Okay, that was a good question. So homework. So these, you were to be able to identify these. So enter your guess in the chat window. I don't see any guesses yet. There we go. Got some. Anybody else? Okay, yes, all of these guesses make sense. Okay, so that is our marsh wren. Again, most of you thought it was a wren. Some of you thought it was a ruby-crowned kinglet, and I can see how you might think that. So the marsh wren is kind of mechanical sounding to me. Let's try this next one. What do you think? Yep, first guess is correct. Okay, everybody got that right. Ruby-crowned kinglet. So let's try it one more time. Someone thought it might be a hermit thrush. The hermit thrush is quite a bit different. So let's listen to the ruby-crowned kinglet again. Let's try it again. Now, if you're not hearing the lead-in very high-pitched notes, you might want to turn it up a little bit. Okay, let's try the next one. All right, that's pretty unmistakable sound that thrushes make. Hear that spiral in there? Very characteristic of thrush. Okay, the last one. All right, that has a characteristic seesaw. Someone said the Nashville seesaw warbler. I like that. Which thrush was it? It was the hermit thrush. And we've got some Nashville warbler guesses. Good, that's what that is. I also claim that he is one of the 3 warblers that'll be in your homework that sound like a car starting. See if you agree with that. All right. So I want you to continue with the class 1 homework as we go through all the classes. So I really think it's a breakthrough when you can reliably tell the robin and the black-headed grosbeak and the western tanager apart. And while they sound pretty different when you listen to them, in the field, it's going to be less obvious. So keep working on that. It's very important. Okay, we do have a question. Explain how to tell a yellow warbler versus a Nashville warbler. Well, a yellow warbler is one of those that doesn't have much of a seesaw. It has kind of a sweet, sweet, little more sweet sound to it, to me. The Nashville is very strongly seesawy. So let's try that again. The robin. Kind of sweet whistles, and it does have that spiral in it. Listen. Right there. Right there at the end, you hear the spiral. Okay, that's the robin. Robin makes an awful lot of different sounds, but that's one way to tell if you hear that spiral in there. Then the black-headed grosbeak is more of a whistly tone. Ah. See how it kind of whistles? Very clear whistled tones. No spiral in the tanager. Some people call that burry. The front end of this sounds burry to some people. And that last sound it made, tribidet, it's just a dead giveaway for the tanager. I've heard a few other birds make that sound similar, but not quite the same. So I found a lot of these in the woods just by hearing that tribidet sound and knowing what to look for. Okay, we're going to start back in the warblers group. So let's listen to the first bird. Okay, you can hear that seesaw in this song very clearly. Okay, what do you think it is? Get some guesses going. Nashville, someone said. Hermit, but you cheated. Yeah, I did give it away, didn't I? Okay, let's listen to the hermit. I'm sure you heard the calls, the little chips there at the end. So those can be useful in the field, although I find it very difficult to tell which bird is making a call sound because they're so very similar and very short. But the chip sound is one that they make a lot, and you can track it down in the bushes, in the trees rather, sometimes by listening to that. Let's listen one more time to the Hermit Warbler. All right, see, that's a very clear seesaw sound, and then a bit of a slurred trill up. A trill is defined as a series of individual notes that are made so quick that you can't count how many. Let's listen. that little trill at the end. Again, a bunch of notes packed together so quick that you can't count how many. So let's guess the next one. Waiting for some guesses here. Got yellow and MacGillivrays. It is a MacGillivrays. And the yellow warbler, maybe we should listen to that again, because there's been a couple of people wondering about how the yellow warbler sounds. So give me a moment here to get back to the yellow warbler. So what I hear in that is sometimes the sweet, sweeter than sweet kind of a phrase, but more obvious to me is kind of this high tone, middle tone, lower tone. And the other warblers don't tend to do that. So the yellow warbler is pretty unique in that sense. There it was. Kind of a high tone, middle tone, lower tone. Can you hear that slurred seesaw? And then it's sometimes followed by another seesaw, but at a lower pitch. This is another warbler that I think sounds like a car starting. Whoops. There we go. Try it again. MacGillivrays. So you can see these in the basin. They're fairly common. I wouldn't say they're easy to see like in pretty much any warbler, but when you see them, they're very distinctive. They have just a beautiful look to them. So I had one in my yard down across the creek, and I could hear him in my office, and I thought it was a Nashville warbler. So I went down with my binoculars and could see him in the tree, singing his little heart out, making it very similar to the sound. This is another bird that I think sounds a bit like a car starting. Do you get that? Okay, not sure what happened there. So we were supposed to be playing MacGillivrays. There we go. Okay, so this bird was named by Audubon, and he named it after a Scottish ornithologist, William MacGillivray. So what do you think's next? We've seen it a few times, but take a guess. What do you think? Yep, Wilson's. What do you think? Kind of sharp notes. A little bit mechanical in a way. As you can see on the spectrogram that there are a wide range of frequencies in each sound, but a fairly sharp beginning to it. Another one I think sounds like a car starting. So Wilson's warbler, and there are a number of birds with the name Wilson's attached. So he was considered to be the greatest American ornithologist prior to Audubon. Okay. We're about to switch groups, so this is a very extra credit guess, and it is a bird. Now, I guess I'd be surprised if anybody knows this bird. He's from South America. A quetzal? No. A bellbird. Lois. And David. Good for you. Sue, of course. Bellbird. She's probably seen the bellbird. Pretty unmistakable, huh? So supposedly the world's loudest bird. So we're going to go on to another group. It's kind of a mix of birds in these families. And I put up the phylogeny chart because I think these are really interesting. I don't look at them enough, but in this case, we see that, for example, the corvids and the vireos are very closely related. You would never think that looking at them, but their DNA suggests that they branched off at some time in the past and became the two separate groups of birds. So the way you read these charts is back here is way long ago. We're talking millions of years, millions and millions of years. And then across the bottom of the chart is time going forward. So by the time you get to the end of the chart, we're at today. Now you might think that the corvids and vireos separated, recently, but that would be in the millions of years recently. So we're going to work on this group. Let's listen to a group of the group. All right, that was the Western Tanager, the black-headed grosbeak, and the lazuli bunting. Okay, they do sound, to me, a little bit similar. Of course, especially the tanager and the grosbeak. But the tanager, you recall, is kind of burry. The grosbeak is very whistly. And the bunting actually says the word lazuli in its song somewhere. A little hard to pick out, but listen. Tanager, grosbeak, and the bunting. So recall that we've been working on this ever since class 1, that the robin, the black-headed grosbeak, and the western tanager have similarities, and I've asked you to try to separate those. It's a big deal when you get to reliably be able to tell the difference between these three birds. So we'll just do a quick review. It's got a spiral in there. All very clear whistled tones. Tanager sounds burry to some people. So let's guess what's next. Big clue at the end there. Tanager, yes. Yes, everybody's got it right. Western tanager. So it's a very favorite bird for the TENS group. It's used in their logo. Okay, I want everybody to listen again when we play it for that single phrase call that sounds a bit like tribbit. And when you're out in the woods, keep your ears open for that. You're going to hear it, and then you'll know what to look for. It's almost unmistakable. There are a few other birds that can make a sound that's sort of like that, but this is the most clear one. Now, many people call this song burry, and again, it can be easily confused with the robin or the grosbeak. Let's listen to the tanager again. Okay, someone wisely picked up on the western wood pewee in the background. That's really good. I try to do that sometimes when I'm listening to these, but the background birds can be pretty tough. Let's see if we can hear that. Listen for that little wee-oo right there. Hear it? Western wood pewee in the background. So again, big homework. Be sure you can tell the difference between the tanager, the robin, and the grosbeak. I'm not going to play them again because we've done that a bunch. So what do you think the next bird is in this kind of mixed up group? Yeah, the bunting is correct. So Joanna wondered if the tribidit on the tanager was first. No, it's kind of any time. They can make it all by itself. Just a little bit. It's one of their calls, tribidit, but it can also be buried in the song sometimes. Good question. Okay, we have the bunting. All right. You can hear it's kind of a high-pitched, buzzy whistles. But to me, the one, I have trouble with this bird, but there's one phrase that sounds like Yuli. And let's listen to it again and see if you can hear it. It tends to be at the end of one of the phrases. Oops. Maybe I'm making that up, but it sounds to me like it's saying Yuli right at the end of those phrases. Right there. This bird is named for the lapis lazuli, the stone that has that same kind of blue color in it, apparently. So what's next? Okay, this has been one of our homework birds. That's right, it's the black-headed grosbeak. And some of you are using the four-letter short form for the bird. And if you don't know what that is, it's sometimes interesting to look it up. And if you can get used to it, it's a good way to take notes quickly. So the black-headed grosbeak is BHGB, like that. I just put it in the chat, BHGB. So now this one's pretty easy, black-headed grosbeak. A lot of them are not so easy. Question, do we get evening grosbeaks? We definitely do. Let's see, if you look at the tens list, they have a list that they publish. It's definitely on there. I wouldn't call them common at all, but you can definitely see them. Nice clear whistles. Some people call this a robin on steroids because it's sung at a faster pace than the robin sings. Diane mentioned that the song tends to go on and on and on, and that's a good clue also. The length of the song is longer than many of the other birds we've looked at. Again, your homework, it can be easily confused with robin and tanager. Make sure you can tell those three apart. We're going to move on to another group of birds that sound similar. Let's see if you can guess the group. Okay, I had a comment. Yes, on the TENS list, the grosbeak is listed under finches. All right. So some people think that could be a song sparrow. And it is, for sure. So our next group is sparrows. Now, a little bit oddly, I think, but I believe the sparrows are the best of the bird singers. And it seems so odd that they're such a plain bird in a lot of ways. Although as you get to see the really fine detail, you can tell they're really, really beautiful birds. But it takes a lot of looking and peering at them to pick that out. So they're really great singers for the most part. There are 49 sparrows in the US and Canada. And we're going to listen to 11 that are the most likely to be heard in the Tahoe Basin. So let's take a guess at our first one. Well, you wouldn't call that musical. So this one is not a great singer, but it sure sounds like something, doesn't it? I got a guess for junco. It sounds a lot like a junco. It can, in fact, be quite confusing, as we'll see. So that was a chipping sparrow. Okay, I want you to pay attention to the fact that it's kind of a dry trill, and it's mostly on one pitch, although it kind of wavers up and down a little bit. Let's listen to that again. See a little up and down in there? Okay, Linda says it sounds like a water sprinkler. That's a good one. And so will the junco. So we need to be able to tell them apart. I think what you're going to hear is the chipping sparrow is really kind of a dry trill. And the junco is a more of a musical trill. Let's listen to it. Hear that? Seemed to be a lot more to each chip, a lot more going on. More liquidy, I would say. It's not very dry. But that's not the only way a junco can sound. Let's listen to this one. Now, try to tell. Can you tell the difference between this junco and the chipping sparrow? I think it's really difficult. Junco, chipper. See, for the chipper, tends to be a little drier sounding, and it kind of wavers a little bit in pitch. The junco seems more uniform in pitch. It might trail off in volume at the end, but the pitch seems to stay the same. Okay, now we're getting into some really detailed work to figure out which bird is making the sound. And I actually think that's a lot of fun to try to do, but it is work. It does take a bit of practice to get this down, but I think it's really interesting when you can begin to tell birds apart that sound a little bit similar. So let's guess our next one. I bet you can guess. Okay. I had a few comments on the chipping sparrow I want to go over. Kristen says it sounds like an orange crown warbler. Yes, I have been fooled. The orange crown has a definite slide off in volume and pitch that the chipping sparrow doesn't. That the junco doesn't, I should say. I've misidentified an orange crowned and warbler and a junco sometimes. Lois says that the chipper sounds like a sewing machine. And one person asked, do birds have to take a breath to make such long phrases? Well, I have no idea. Probably, but I don't know. Let's see. Steve wonders, are the different junco songs being made by different geographic varieties? I don't have that right in front of me as to where I got those two juncos. I bet they are a little bit separated geographically. So what do females of junco and chipping sparrow look like? Now the junco, they all kind of look the same, I believe. The chipping sparrow, less clear. I don't know if they aren't very similar, but I actually don't know for sure. So I'll look that up for next time. So the chipper female. Okay, so what's this next one? Okay, pretty amazing song. Sue says it's a Brewer's. Let's see. Well, pretty long series of sounds, and they do sing a lot. If you're in an area where they are, you can usually see them pretty well. They like to be on the top of a bush or something. But they do a lot of singing. So a couple of comments that we had. What's another old name for the dark-eyed junco? I think you might be thinking of Oregon junco. And Sue says that her husband called the Brewers the heavy metal bird. I can see that. That's pretty good. And Samia says it sounds like a car alarm a little bit. Well, I think a really notable quote, one I've always loved, is that Roger Tory Peterson said that they sound like a chipping sparrow trying to sing like a canary. So I think that's pretty funny, but pretty accurate too. And William Dawson wrote that nature had done her utmost to produce a bird of non-committal appearance. Now that seems mean, but let's look at this bird. It just doesn't look like much of anything, does it? I think it's one of the plainest birds ever. But they're beautiful in their own right, and they're probably more identifiable by their song than their lack of anything special about their appearance. But they're pretty cool birds. And it's named after Thomas Mayo Brewer, who was an ornithologist. So let's see what's next in our sparrow parade. Some of you are guessing song sparrow, and I can see why. And the white-crowned, perhaps. This is the Vesper Sparrow, and it does have a song that starts out with repeated notes like a song sparrow does. Let's listen to the Vesper Sparrow. I want you to listen to the beginning of it. It seems to me to be saying pew, pew, pew. At least that's what I hear in the field. And as soon as I hear that, I know it's a Vesper Sparrow because churches have pews and vespers. That's my little key, so I hope that helps you. What do you think? Can you hear the pew, pew, pew? So John Burroughs, a naturalist, not the guy that wrote Tarzan, he said that the Vesper Sparrow seems to sing most impressively in the evening, so it gave it the name of the Vesper Sparrow. Which is the next sparrow now? This sparrow says its own name in the song. Any guesses? This is one that's fairly easy to see, on the ground a lot. Okay, can you hear that? Now, some people laughed at me when I said this, but it says Savannah right at the beginning. See, when you hear that, you know it's a Savannah Sparrow. So its name comes from Savannah, Georgia, which is where one of the first specimens was collected. So keep in mind, it says its name. Okay, what's this next one? I actually find this very hard to remember. What do you think? Song sparrow, some people say. Yeah, I can see why you would think that. It's the fox sparrow. Right? Do you think it sounds like a series of clear musical notes, trills and slurred whistles, various pitches? I think so, but I find this hard to remember for some reason. it seems to make a sound that to me sounds kind of like dipsy-doo. See if you can pick that out. Right there. Right there. So that helps me, but I don't believe that's terribly reliable. I think fox sparrows have a lot of different songs they sing, and I suspect it varies a lot by geography. So I remember one was singing down behind my house near a little pond that we have. And so I go down there and try to figure out what this bird is. I'm not sure what it is, again, because I have trouble identifying the fox from its singing. But he's singing away and singing away. So I'm going down there, and the pond is down a little bit of a hill. So as I'm going down the hill, I fall down and make a huge amount of crash, boom, slam, pick myself up, knowing the bird is long gone. But there it was, not 10 feet away, singing away right in a tree. It was very nice, very tame fellow. Joanna wondered, have I seen it in the basin? Yes, in my own yard. Okay, let's guess this next one. Eventually it will be the song sparrow, and we're going to talk about why these other birds sound a bit like it. Okay, that is the song sparrow. Did you hear the chimp at the end? Pretty reliable call that they make. So I learned this bird by being told by another birder, I think it was Sue, thank you, Sue, that they always start out with 3 tones, da, 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 and then a bunch of stuff afterwards. And that's pretty reliable. The other birds make similar songs, but generally not so exact. These first 2 or 3 tones are exactly the same. Let's listen. Some people seem to be able to hear a maids, put on your tea kettle in there somewhere. Not one I've been able to use, but it might be helpful. And I think these are particularly beautiful birds and pretty easy to see, a lot of them around, and they sing a lot. So once you get that 3 sounds in a row, D, 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 followed by who knows what, you're gonna know that's probably a song sparrow. So look for them on the top of a reed or something. Very pretty birds. I love the gray above the eye and the kind of reddish spot here on the crown. Okay, what's next? This is going to be our last one for today. So all right. Nobody guessed the Lincoln sparrow. What do you think? That one's a little hard for me. It's just a lot of different notes going on in there. So this fellow was named on a expedition to Labrador. Audubon named the bird Tom's Finch after 21-year-old Thomas Lincoln, who was first to collect the bird. I guess the name was changed later to Lincoln Sparrow. So that is it for today. We're going to listen to Lincoln Sparrow one more time. Oh, sorry, I interrupted it. Okay, a few questions. For Lincoln sparrows, pretty common from Kristen. I wouldn't call them common, but they're definitely here. Likely you'll hear it more than you see it. Tend to be hanging around in some reeds in a wet, marshy mess somewhere. What other birds do make those walk sounds? Let's see if I can remember. Walk sounds. Walk, walk, walk. I can't remember right off the top of my head, but there was another bird that did that. And one fellow said, I found another bird that sounds similar to a pterodactyl, the great blue heron. Interesting. I'm not sure I've ever played the great blue song or call. All right, we're going to have to finish up. So we're going to start the poll. Please take it as we talk some more here. And the polls are very helpful to us. Now, I want you, for the homework, to try to tell these apart. So the first segment of the homework is to tell these car-starting birds apart. The Nashville warbler, the Wilson's warbler, and the MacGillivray's warbler. And also learn these three: fox sparrow, green-tailed towhee, and the lazuli bunting. I find those pretty difficult, so I hope you can learn them. All right. There's an extra credit guess at the end of the class. Let's see if you can get it. Hint, it's a mammal. Well, I didn't play much. Okay, that is the tuba and throat singer, which a friend told me about. And I think they're pretty cool. They seem to be able to make multiple sounds at once in their throat. Oops. I needed to launch the poll, didn't I? Forgot about that, sorry. So if you could fill it in. I know it's a little bit hard to scroll through it, but there's a scroll bar on the right-hand side. While you're doing that, here's the resources I used for the presentation. The Cornell Lab is my favorite bird site. And the Birds of Lake Tahoe Basin is a great checklist that TENS puts out. And the last entry, Bird Songs and Calls of Lake Tahoe, is probably your best starting place if you want to purchase a CD of recordings. So I'm going to give you a few more minutes to answer the poll questions. Someone asked, what family is the bunting in? Huh. You know, I'll look that up. It's in a special group itself that I can't really pronounce, but I'll see what I can find out. Someone thought that the tube and throat singer was a whale. That's pretty good guess. 2, the grosbeaks on the tens list are in finches. Why is that? I'll see if I can look that up for next time. Someone asked, where did I buy the Morse CD, Bird Songs and Calls of Lake Tahoe? I bought it at Amazon. So Cheryl's having trouble seeing the scroll bar on the pole. It's really, really narrow, and it's on the very right-hand side there. You can see a little dark piece and then a lighter piece below it. Sorry, I'm not sure what kind of PC you're using, but it can be different on different PCs. Well, I think I'll let you go, and thanks so much. And I'll end the poll here, and I'm going to share it if you want to take a look, but we'll talk next time, noon next Thursday.